Welcome to the Spider Cellar. I'm Shayla, and I build and design miniature worlds. Today, I'm building a Hobbit house out of foam, inspired by the classic stories I read as a kid that forged my love for all things fantasy and escapism. So to get started, I'm using my handy Olfa knife, and I'm going to carefully cut several tiny shapes that will become the front of the house. Then, I'll create some standout wood grain texture using this trusty chewed-up dog brush. I'm also using a texture roller to imprint the brick pattern onto the foam. Then, I like to go over the outlines with my X-Acto knife, which helps give the individual bricks a bit more definition. For the windows, I'm cutting tiny, oval-like holes which will be framed and outlined with foam. Maybe I'll make little window planters to go beneath, and then I'll make some kind of old-fashioned iron grating. Now, these little side bits are here to pop out the front walls a bit, providing a three-dimensional quality to the build, and giving a nice, cozy little entryway in front of the door. And I really want this iconic round door to just pop with texture, as it's one of the most defining features of Hobbit homes. Next, I'm going to go ahead and prime these walls with a homemade coating of Mod Podge and black paint. I learned this from Black Magic Craft on YouTube, and it's a great way to seal the foam and simultaneously prime it to be painted. For the window grating, I just cut out 2 squares from this cross-stitch plastic thing left over from a different project. And then I'll attach the front of the house and place little wood-textured beams in places that would need structural support if this were a real house. I'm making the window framing I mentioned earlier. I do want to add little planter boxes to them, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. And now that the front is assembled, let's get to the hillside. This pink foam I'm using is called XPS foam, and it's pretty haphazardly arranged right now, but I'll be covering it with sculptamold later on. For the shingles, I'm using my Proxxon hotwire table to get a nice shingle shape on the foam. I wasn't planning on making shingles for this build, but it looked like it needed it, and sometimes you gotta improvise. And then just do that about 30 more times and glue them down. As I promised earlier, I'll be covering the hillside using sculptamold. This stuff is great. Just add water, mix it up, and apply. It also kind of reminds me of paper mache, and it takes just about as long to dry. Also, I know I should really just get a dedicated container for mixing this instead of using whatever's in my recycling, but where's the fun in that? Now, I've carved some little cobblestone shapes into my foam here that I will go ahead and texturize with this crumpled up piece of foil. Now I'll just finish priming all the foam so we can move on to painting. tried to mix brown paint with some coconut fiber to make it look like dirt, but quickly learned that that was not going to work, so I'm just going to sprinkle some on at the end and spray it with Mod Podge. For the first layer of paint to the bricks, I'm going with this orangey tan color that I created by mixing a red and a tan. The goal is just to apply nice even coverage, get in all those cracks, and just give a solid base coat that we can layer over. And now I'm going to go in and add some flecks of dark red, just to kind of break up the monotony of the orangey tan, make it look a little less like a barn, and give a little more character to the bricks. There really is no rhyme or reason for where I'm placing these pops of color. There's no real pattern I'm following. You really can't mess this up. I started out using a black wash on the bricks, but it just wasn't doing what I'd hoped, so I decided to experiment with a lighter wash instead, before adding some of the color detail back in. Okay, this was not the best color choice for the wood, and I realized that pretty immediately, but in my defense, I was originally going for a lighter wood color, and with the highlights I brushed on after this, it really doesn't look bad. It just didn't pair well with the bricks. At this point, I'm second guessing all my color choices, but the one color I was certain about was the vibrant emerald green for the door. It's my favorite color, and I think it just pops so well against the bricks. When I dry brush the highlights on, it really tones down the brassiness of that golden yellow color, almost resembling birchwood, which is what I was originally going for. However, once I applied the dark brown around the door, I realized how much better a dark wood color would suit this build, and was able to quickly darken the wood with a much richer tone. I usually do plan my builds out fully before starting on them, and this one was no exception, but I do like to give myself room to experiment. A lot of times, the vision I start with does not resemble the end product, and I think as an artist, you have to be okay with that. Or not. Now for the fun part, it's time for static grass. After coating the hillside in scenic cement from Woodland Scenics, I load up my static grass applicator with tiny green fibers and just start shaking it over the areas where I want grass to stick up. As the fibers are shaken through the metal mesh part, they gain a static charge and stand upright. I also want to use some green flocking to create the appearance of moss throughout the build. With this, I just lightly sprinkle it where I want it. When I dreamt up this build, I imagined what it would feel like to come home after a long, harrowing adventure across Middle-earth. I wanted to capture the mix of comfort and familiarity, and also the overwhelm of trying to just pick up where you left off. It would also probably feel a bit underwhelming returning to, while peaceful, a far more mundane day-to-day. Left over from a different build, so I thought it might make sense to put them in a box outside, as if preparing to give away things you might not return home to. Kinda dark. Stories are often hidden in the details, and my favorite part of this type of build is being able to weave a little mystery into the scene. Initially, those were all the props I had planned. I didn't realize there would be so much empty space, so I'm going to do what I do best and improvise. Here I'm using a whittled down toothpick and some fake straw I got at the hobby store, craft wire, and voila! It's a broom. But it still doesn't feel complete yet, so I'm improvising a few more tiny props that add to the story and fill in some of the empty space. And let's see how it turned out. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you want to see me build next time. Until then, bye!